A brilliant method at any time of the year is the short range waggler line. Now this is, I'm talking a line just past your pole line where fish feel safe, they'll feed more confidently. Here's my 5 top tips for making the most of that area of your peg. As with any method, feeding is really important. What I like to do with this method is start off slow and build the swim up as the day goes on. So what I'm going to do is just start off feeding sort of 8 to 10 casters twice every chuck. After all, you know, the weather is pretty warm, we're trying to build a peg up as the day goes on. I know there's loads of silverfish in here, so feeding twice every cast gives me a chance of getting some bait past those silverfish that are feeding mid-water and down on the bottom where hopefully we can hold some better fish. That's great to start with, but what I guess will happen today is we might catch the odd bigger fish, but we'll be played by small fish when we're feeding just this small amount of bait. What we'll have to do is up the feed as the day goes on. It's a nice day today, it's a springtime day, sun's out, really warming the top layers of the water. So what I guess is going to happen is those bigger fish are going to start competing for these casters. After all, they don't sink like bricks, they flutter through the water nice and slowly. And those big fish are going to start competing for these casters mid-water, and we're going to have to start feeding a lot more bait to encourage those fish to feed more aggressively. So what I'll probably end up doing, already there getting bust maggots from small fish, what I'll probably end up doing is increasing that amount of casters up to maybe 30 or 40 casters every cast. And by doing that, I'm bypassing those small fish and encouraging those bigger fish to stay in the peg. I'm making it worthwhile for those bigger fish to stay in the swim. Let's talk about bait, and there's one bait that I love fishing, especially with this method. It's casters. They make a lovely noise when they hit the surface. They group when you catapult them out a little bit tighter than maggots, and they sink faster than maggots, and also they attract better quality fish than maggots. Maggots seem to attract small fish, whereas casters seem to attract better quality fish. We've got a really good chance as well of catching carp, F1s, as well as catching those roach and skimmers. So if I had to choose one bait for fishing on this short range waggler line at this time of year, it'd definitely be casters. Other baits that I've got with me today, you can't fish casters without bringing some corn along. Brilliant just to flick in over the top of your casters. Just 2-3 grains every now and again, just helps hold some better quality fish in the peg. It also gives you the opportunity to just slip a grain of corn on every now and again, hopefully catch a monster. And for hook bait, for the majority of the day, we've got some maggots. Now quite often I think casters would make a fantastic hook bait if they weren't so fragile. When we're casting that waggler in and out constantly all day, we're going to break the casters, they're going to split, the one's going to ping off every now and again. It's not ideal. So maggots, you know, they're the second best really. But because they're so durable, it means I can repeatedly cast. If I do miss the odd bite, it doesn't matter, they're not going to fall off. So they make the ideal hook bait to when I'm loose feeding casters. So while I play the fish, let's talk about why I think this method is so successful. Now, when you get a lot of anglers around a lake, fish obviously soon become wary. There'll probably be 20 or 30 anglers here on a Sunday around this lake, and when you look around the lake, they'll all be doing a similar thing. They'll either be feeder fishing, where they'll be casting probably 30 metres out towards the middle of the lake, or they'll be fishing a pole. And what that means is there's a lot of water, so-called dead water, between where that pole line ends and that feeder line starts. And that is where a lot of wary fish will congregate. They don't want to get caught at the end of the day, so unless they're actually ravenous and coming to a lot of feed, they won't be coming to where the angler's fishing. They'll be actually staying away from where the anglers are fishing. And that is why this method works so well, because I'm capitalising on that water that no one else is making the most of. So by feeding that area of the swim between the pole line and between the feeder swim, it means that I'm able to catch more fish than other people and either put a match winning weight together or just have a nice enjoyable day. Now let's talk about kit. I've got set up today an 11-foot Waggler rod. I think 11 foot is about right for nearly all of my commercial fishery Waggler work. I don't need a long rod, I'm not casting a long way today, I'm not trying to pick up line on the strike from sort of 40, 50 metres out. I'm chucking 20 metres, and that means I need a short rod. It helps when I'm playing fishing massively. When a fish pops up within netting range with this rod, it comes up really close, I can net it really quickly. Also, because I'm in and out a lot, a short rod is just easier on the arm throughout the day. So a short rod for me, 11 foot is a must. Let's talk about the reel line. I've got 016 reel line on. It's not a really heavy line, it's a nice thin reel line. It's going to make casting and presentation far easier. We've got a little bit of a side wind today. Obviously the heavier the line, the more it's going to catch that wind, the more the float's going to drag, it's going to make things awkward. 016 is about right, still quite confidently land carp on that, especially this time of year when the carp aren't you know, aggressively fighting like they might do in the height of summer. Waggler wise, I've got a Drennan insert Waggler. Real nice, standard insert Waggler. A lot of the time, especially when you're fishing pellets or heavier baits, or I want to drag line on the bottom, you might want to use a thick tip float like this one. But for today, water's pretty calm in front of me. I can see every little indication on this little insert bristle, and it means that fish are going to take the bait more confidently. I'm going to catch more fish because I'm using an insert rather than a thick tip Waggler. And that is 2.5 gram. Again, not a heavy Waggler, we're not casting a long way. The light main line helps casting enormously, so we can use a light Waggler. I've just fixed that on the line with a little swivel there with a clip link. Means I can swap Wagglers throughout the day. Also means that when I strike, that clip link collapses and I'm more direct to the fish. It's locked between 2 sets of stots, number 8 stots. I think stots are kind on your line, but at the same time they do lock in position if you use a couple of them together. So I've got 2, 3 number 8 stots either side of the Waggler. And then just down the line I've got 3 number 10 shot, and importantly my join between the hook length and the main line is this tiny little micro swivel. That to me is really important. It means I can use double maggot, sweet corn, those baits that tend to spin up when you're retrieving them, and they just don't spin up. It means that my hook length lasts a lot longer. It means I'm fishing efficiently for longer during the day because I'm not waiting each cast for my hook length to stop spinning. The hook length today is 012 and I'm using a size 16 B911 hook. It's a real all-rounders hook. I can put double maggot on that, I can put a grain of corn, a bit of worm, a couple of casters. I can use almost any bait on that hook, and it's strong enough for carp, F1s, but it's also being pretty light. Means I'm going to catch some roach on it as well. So there you go, there's the kit. Standard kit, pretty simple really, but it's nice and well balanced. Now something that's really important with this method is constant casting. I'm looking to catch a lot of my fish on the drop actually, that's why I've got that strung out shotting pattern. So by casting in sort of every minute or so, feeding some bait, some fish are even taking this on the drop and actually tightening up to the rod tip. By casting every minute or so, feeding some bait, there you go, another fish. Over the top, pulling into that bait, it means that we're actively working the swim and we're getting bites every single chuck. You've just got to remember to keep your bait falling through your hook bait falling through the swim. Nice roach, probably about £1. You might notice, and I think this is a big tip, is that I use the line clip when I'm casting out. I do that for one big reason. It's easy to lose track of where you're actually fishing. And what I like to do is obviously pick a far bank marker, similar to what you do when you're feeder fishing. You cast out, you hit the line clip, rod goes on the rest in front of you, and because I've hit that line clip and I've hit that far bank marker, I'm in line with that far bank marker, means that my loose feed can go in the same place every time. I see a lot of people fishing a Waggler and they make a cast to the left, a cast to the right, a cast short, cast too long, and they're following the Waggler around the peg with their loose feed, and it just spreads the loose feed too much. It creates too big a swim, and it means that you're not effectively attracting fish into your peg. The other advantage of actually using that line clip is it helps straighten the rig out. So when I cast in, everything lands in a straight line rather than landing in a big heap. That straight line means that the line's tight between the hook bait and the float and the rod tip, and it means that a lot of the time fish will hook themselves.